Greetings tonight, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a little bit of time before my last video, but tonight's video is really very near to my heart. And in fact, it might explain why I have been missing. I've taken a little bit of a social media break. I needed to get away from the news and everything that else was going on, especially with the political drama in America. With that being said, I experienced a lot, kind of throwing myself in the middle with some of my videos because I felt that it was needed for me to take a stand and to decide my role within this and use my channel as a way to spread messages of peace and equality in a way that others might have not agreed with. So I took the chance to write something because it was really the only way that I could get everything out that I felt deep within me. And I want to share it with you tonight, and then we can talk about it if you want, and we can just really hear each other's perspectives. I realized I needed to take time to heal. I believe America did, and still does as well. There is much healing needed after all of that drama that has unfolded that showed just how divided the nation still is in terms of opinions and perspectives. I certainly felt this watching the Capitol Hill riots, which only showed just how divided and scared right now people really are. As I heard one government representative from Miami say, with the wise words, "Desperation breeds terrorism." Desperation is a very extreme state of fear, and we see how people act in their own perspectives of self-preservation. Throughout all 600 videos of mine, you can see that I am not normally one to get too involved with politics because I am more interested in the realm of the spiritual and the philosophical, which often doesn't concern itself with the material world as much as a spiritual one. But I witnessed an atrocity done to America that I could not stay quiet on my channel for too long, and fully came to understand how the spirit and material world must be balanced inwardly so that we see the world as it truly is, so that we never miss opportunity to solve problems that keep people from being truly, authentically happy. The day I created a cautionary video about Trump's inability to concede and step down to allow a peaceful transfer of power to Biden and Harris to become the next rightful administration and compared him to acting like Sauron of Middle-earth and Tolkien stories, his supporters did storm Capitol Hill that January 6th with his army of supporters, and lives were lost, as I intuitively felt it would. Before you think they were not Trump's true supporters, you need to see the FBI finding video I posted in the description of this video, which concludes in the investigations of the arrested that they did find the majority to be boogaloos who are solely hoping for a civil war to tear down society, Proud Boys, anarchists, and neo-Nazis, all in true support of whatever Trump's words represented to them. It's all there in the FBI questioning by Congress representatives, which you can see in the description. It was my intuition of sensing something is in the air brewing, as well as observing the tweets calling to rally against those they feel stole the election. I saw the potential pathway to civil war America could have taken once again, and in many ways we are still on this path and must be careful going forwards. I just want to be clear today and show that I truly believe Trump and Republicans who felt the election was stolen did not understand something very important and perhaps unknown to them. So let me enlighten them. I am a Green Party member, normally, but yet I voted for Biden and Harris because I wanted to help remove Trump from his position. It does not matter if Trump had millions at his rallies or speeches. There were billions in hiding, just like me, patiently waiting to vote with our hearts and minds towards an administration that would not turn the political arena into a coliseum of insult and fighting. Logically, many of us played the numbers game, and many have given our vote to Biden if we believed in the liberal idea of total equality for all, including all LGBTQ, and no indiscriminate immigration banning, or the re-signing of the Paris Agreement to work together with other nations to transition to greener energy. Many Green Party members voted for their respective candidates, and I respect that. This was the first time I truly saw the green light with the Democratic plan and decided to put my trust in them this time. And I am simply being public with this because many Republicans still think the voting was all up to the Democrats, but it was not. Although the third and independent party is small, we do make an impact with our votes too, as shown in this last election where Biden did win. I want to say something to those who are upset by my videos on Trump and decided to comment or leave my channel based on our differences. For 4 years, I watched with my own eyes from the direct source of Trump speaking badly about the Democrats, women that are not his type, minorities, and innocent immigrants seeking refuge from war into America, near nuclear wars with China and Syria actually did have missiles deployed on them by Trump. I watched him make fun of the handicap reporter in mockery, trying to strip equal rights from women who should choose to be a mother or not and decide what to do with their own bodies, and somehow allow for the interpretation of Make America Great Again means something very different to the white supremacist groups or ultra-conservative religious ones who are also anti-gay, anti-Muslim, anti-Jewish, and anti-trans groups who supported him during his presidency. I watched how Trump tore the Republican Party apart by creating his own party of religious loyalists, claiming he was chosen by God, causing even some Republicans to disagree with him and not support him any longer with his or his own supporters' extremist antics. These things were far more important to me than some of his economic plans that may or may not have helped others. I understand Trump did some good things while in office by signing bills presented to him, and you could see my video about the making animal abuse illegal. Finally, someone was able to sign that bill, and Trump did. But you will find that I am fair-minded, but I am no robot, and I will take the side of the one side that needs most support of concern. The white power or Christian power has never taken the priority over equal human rights to live the lives they choose, as far as I am concerned. It was an exhausting 4 years for me, and every day was quite an adventure and not a good kind when Trump was in charge. I never knew what next he would do or say to upset or evoke others, or what his supporters would claim next about him. And once again, I always went to the direct source and never just from the media. These observations come from my own personal experiences and what I have seen. The media may have a biased slant against or in support of Trump, depending on their own motives coming from directives, but they cannot hide what Trump has actually said in his rallies or speeches to supporters and his own personal tweets. That is all him. And the media is not to blame for just shining a light or highlighting the absurd things he would say as a leader of this nation, who at times sounded more like a leader of one political and religious group than a president of a nation of many diverse people. Many people unfortunately followed outrageous conspiracies about Trump being a religious savior or a starseed from another planet saving everyone from the evil Democrats. And I believe that people were taken advantage of on an emotional level by others who started these conspiracies for their own political agenda that is actually religiously and racially motivated, as Chief of FBI Christopher Wray stated in a report that white supremacy was the main motivation of those arrested from January 6. This deeply saddened me, and I do wish for healing for those people as well who started to believe them or followed his dark path of division. I will say this as gently as I can, that common sense, quiet observations of nature, and my own near-death experience has shown me that nobody other than your own will to do the right thing in life is your Messiah. And this world is about our own personal journey through obstacles that offer a greater chance for our own spiritual development. Earth is another spiritual school. And if you thought Trump was something more than your fellow beings to put him before the greater group of others, then you were pulled into a religious propaganda That has nothing to do with spirit. And that is the hard truth many will awaken to in their own time. In many ways, Trump is very much like a hobbit in Lord of the Rings. However, not as kind or brave as Frodo or Bilbo. He doesn't think beyond his own comfort or desires. And it is all very clear in the consequences of enemies he has made over his lifetime as he publicly insulted and attacked others who came from a different perspective than him and his loyal supporters. He just spoke about what was on his mind to the people who were also thinking the same thoughts, and they supported him for that. And then they put God's name as another supporter of him to support their own opinions as what has been done for many ages. This is not something new. Humans always use God's name to defend their own anger and opinions of others. But I notice there is never inward gazing while looking at others. The reality is, and in the future more and more will awaken to, this and more people across the world are doing daily, that there is no higher being choosing or anointing others as many thought Trump was chosen by God. You, if religious, actually anoint people based on who affirms your own beliefs and values. And even whole organizations like churches can start to support this if they have the same belief. The reason why the churches supported Trump so much was because he helped represent their own conservative views on mind, body, and soul, not because he truly believed them, as you saw with his own actions and behaviors, but they gave him a support system of power, and he used that. We each have our own demons and angels that we appoint and label in our lives, depending on how we see the world and how big we have allowed the force of love to become in our own lives. This is truly what I observed tear our nation apart. It was the difference of realities and perspectives from different levels of consciousness that people were experiencing. Different perspectives have everything to do with adversity. And there was a lot of hurtful things said from the other side towards Trump and his supporters. I will admit that. It is not nice to make fun of the man by insulting his looks, educational level, or his intelligence. That is, in my opinion, seeking to a lower level of being. I saw anger from both sides, and I felt anger seeing his rage and hurtfulness from others, or seeing this rage from both sides and hurtfulness from others. Trump is no more the Antichrist than he is the next Messiah. And these are the two different extreme perspectives people have had of him that created their reality to unfold and see the world follow this path within their own mind. At one point, I even let my own anger get the better of me, helping me spiral down to the lower depths of depression that I had to pull myself out of. What really happened in America politically is that Trump, in many ways, represented the old ways and conservative values of others who don't easily embrace new perspectives or future ideas according to their hardwired religious values. But as you can see, there is a progressive movement for change in gender, ethnic equality, and hopefully we can all learn how to embrace change together and not be so afraid of the future. We all are afraid of change in some form or another. As progressive as some of us are, and I consider myself very progressive, there are things that we have a hard time being totally comfortable or letting go of with our own familiarity. Trump's Twitter feed did call the Stop the Steal rallies, after insisting it was voter fraud, and in my eyes, he was far more guilty of allowing for a rebellion to take place with his rhetoric he used. But nevertheless, he was acquitted by Congress. Perhaps this was the better choice in the long run. Many people don't realize, but treason in the Constitution leads to execution. And no matter how angry I was with Trump for the 4 years of being insensitive about the environment or the way he spoke about others, I would never wish that for him or others involved in the insurrection. I don't agree with the death penalty, as I showed in one of my videos about my visions of future prisons. I believe in only healing and rehabilitation as true change for those who temporarily lost their spiritual way towards a more peaceful life experience. In the future, we should be in the mindset to help those souls lost, rather than punish them. Even though Donald Trump does believe in putting people to death and did call for the death penalty of the innocent Central Park 5 boys when he was not yet in office, which I saw the 1989 interview with my own hands or my own eyes, I still would not wish this for him. So now it is time to let these last 4 years go, and I release my anger and sadness with others. We do have a new president already in place with already some promising new plans to help the environment with rejoining the Paris Agreement and coming together as a world in the future of less war. I very much am in agreement with Stephen Hawking's wise words about the environmental concerns that he left before he passed on. Stephen Hawking said of Donald Trump in May, "The famed scientist went on to lead a group of more than 300 of his peers in writing a letter of warning about a potential Trump presidency, reading, 'It is of great concern that the Republican nominee for president has advocated U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Accord. A pair exit would send a clear signal to the rest of the world. The United States does not care about the global problem of human-caused climate change. You are on your own.'" I believe Stephen would be happy to see that America is not indefinitely an isolationist nation, but can come together with other nations as well as be a role model. Though we are seeing America still has much to learn. I do not care what political party you belong to. I hope my video will connect to either side of the political spectrum while I vent a bit, and then let it go and heal finally as we move on as a nation into a new administration now. I do not think we alone can heal white supremacy or other extremist religion or political ideologies, which is bred through a lack of education and acquainting ourselves with others who are different. We're spending too much time generalizing others and trapping yourself by the limited perspectives of stereotypes. That is a personal journey for each individual supremacist who will have to go through it on their own. And that is their spiritual challenge. It is the minority, so all we can do as a much larger group, not haunted by fears of losing power or our place ethnically, is to discourage this growth by supporting equal rights and humanitarian efforts for freedom for all life. In answer to the devil's advocate thought, white supremacy would not be a humanitarian movement. Since it does not aim to preserve all of humanity, it is a fanatical sociological ideology based from the reptilian part of the mind that governs the emotional reactions and responses of survival and fear based on ethnic preservation. It's not a sincere movement towards peace for all. It is only a state of fear. Since I am all about humanity evolving past fear, using the reptilian mind on each other, and using the neocortex more to become enlightened to the spiritual interconnections, this is why I did speak out against white supremacy that may be unrecognized to my fellow whites, as they have shown me. But it is indeed still here in America, growing stronger and will not go away being ignored. As Carl Jung said, what we resist will persist in our lives and in our nation. If we resist as whites to see this, then we will continue to allow hidden groups of white nationalists to form and gain power under our very noses, just as once the KKK did. White supremacy is truly illogical and unsympathetic on a planet of 7 billion beings of diverse nature. So like J.R.R. Tolkien once took a stand against the German Nazis in his letters, I take a stand against them today too. If you were wondering why I added these thoughts to my channel previously with Elven Wisdom and Love, well, there you have it. And speaking up against racism while it rears its dark head again in America towards others is the wisest use of my light I can do, I feel. I have had to let go of my frustrations and anger with those who feel it's not worth talking about or doesn't concern them and doesn't belong on my channel. I worked to heal this within me, seeing your comments. And as Chief of the FBI said, the amount of hateful, angry rhetoric on the internet shared on social media exceeds what anyone can even imagine. I believe all sides of the political and religious spectrum experienced pain and felt anger during these 4 years, evidenced by riots and protests. So it is my wish that others are taking this time to heal, as I did, and truly make the effort to find our way back together as a nation. The importance is to acknowledge our feelings, what we all have learned, and slowly start to piece back our lives and our nation. As a global citizen who was never an American patriot, I was just born here, I see that America has much to learn. But I never gave up on this nation. After all, we are one in a spiritual sense. So I believe in that power of unity and singularity, guiding all souls back towards another again from our original energetic source. I truly believe it is by putting our minds together to ensure we all lessen our environmental impact that we will finally find the bridge between one another to preserve the beauty and sacredness of nature and our own inner nature as aware and sentient beings created from love. I thank you for watching this, and may you not feel alone if you too felt some pain over politics. It is very easy to get wrapped up in politics as a spiritual being. When you are a spiritual being who cares about others, regardless who they are, so never blame yourself for doing so on earth. The very essence of spirit is to care about others, and in many ways, a spiritual life is to live guided by your heart, merging the spiritual with the physical world. I wish you healing and a sense of excitement to look towards a better future of many more lessons learned together. For the Trump supporters who left my channel along with emails or comments towards me, I will say this. I am sorry to see you go with our differences, but I am not sorry in standing up for what I believe in and supporting my other LGBTQ friends and any non-whites who have ever experienced the darkness that white supremacy represents of spirit. For those who supported Trump and remain part of my channel, letting me know that our perspectives don't sever our spiritual connections, I thank you for your open-mindedness and courage to hear different perspectives. You don't know how much that means to me and what potential for beauty it shows a future as holding, or perhaps you do. And for that, I thank you. I have no intention for my channel to become a commentary channel about the world or about politics, but rather an exploration of just how high and noble our spirits can become towards one another, the earth, and for our own selves. That, to me, is elven wisdom. In love, light, and wisdom, Kimberell Eventide. That's me. So those are my thoughts. And I just wanted to lay it out there for everybody, for all my 16,000 subscribers. I lost a few during those times of making those videos. And I wanted to just put everything out there once and for all, because everything that you put on the internet stays. And when you open yourself up to having a channel, you are looked at from different perspectives. And the worst thing that can ever happen is for any kind of misunderstandings. So I am trying to be as clear and as concise as I possibly can to allow people to know what this channel is really about, to clear up any kind of confusion, and why I decided to take a stand in some way. And I was telling my husband this, that sometimes I get condemned in a way for focusing on the material world. And I should be more concerned with just the spiritual and bring in just, the Tolkien ideas. But to me, they're very much interconnected. What is happening in the material world is also happening in the spiritual. And so many of Tolkien's wisdom that he passed down through his stories of Lord of the Rings is something that's reflected in the material world. In fact, Lord of the Rings was very much inspired by his hate of war and his way of just trying to combat that darkness in the world. So that's how I work too, in many ways. I connect the two together. The material and the spiritual are in balance within me. And so I will never be just in the fantasy realm of fairy, but I will allow that balance and hopefully harness and bring the energies of fairy into Earth. But first, there are some things that we need to look at together as. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. I will go to the comments because I know that there might be some that have taken the chance to come on and give me their own perspectives. So absolutely. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy that you were able to join me. And yes, the notifications, I know you have to probably hit the bell, but I'm not sure how that works. Yes, I am doing just fine, Uncle Badger. Thank you for your concern. But I had to be honest, you know, I definitely I was affected emotionally by everything that happened. And it's just something that slowly creeps up on you. And I wanted to take this chance to tell people that, yes, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I was going through and what I was thinking. And these are thoughts that I have had to kind of process. But I really do believe that the only way really through this is by, communicating with each other and having these talks. I really do believe that talk is our way towards peace, because we don't know what's inside of each other's mind, because we're not all mind readers in that way. And even if we are the most psychic person, we still don't know exactly what experience other people are having. And we won't unless we're really, truly communicating that with each other. So I'm happy that you were able to come, everybody here. Narin, wonderful comment. The spirit manifests the material reality, and the material reality helps the spirit manifest. Exactly. In many ways, we have darkness in the world in order for us to put forth our light. And what that means is that we're given a chance and an opportunity to prove to ourselves the strength of our spirit, the growth of everything that we have learned over many incarnations and many lives. So that is something that I do believe in, the factor of yin and yang. We have to have the darkness in order to find the light and see the light. So yeah, I very much agree. Luminescent Nymph, welcome to the channel. Neo-Nazis, yikes, that sounds about right. Those people definitely follow Trump. Well, if you watch the video, and I did this not to spread hate or propaganda or anything of that nature, but I do believe that we need to look at reality. And as I have said in other past videos, it is about really just a lack of education and just a lack of life experience. And I'm not talking about school education. I'm talking about kind of life education and assimilating with those that are of different culture or ethnicity. There has been the FBI, Christopher Wray, which you have the link in the description to watch. It's fascinating because he basically just answers, the director, the chief of FBI answers all the questions that Congress has. And he says this: the attackers include, on January 6th, they have found with their arrests of people, there is no Antifa. They have found actually no evidence of Antifa or any type of pretending to be in support of Trump, but yet not. They found that it consists of two groups or three groups: militia, violent extremists, those that are very military powered and motivated. And, those are the ones that really want to, own their guns and protect their rights to have guns. But they also come with other extremist kind of military, militant thoughts, such as white supremacy and white nationalism. And they found also the other group to be anarchists, violent extremists. So what they want is just a collapse of the system. So they don't really stand on either side, but they supported Trump because in many ways he kind of represented the collapse of the system, because he talked so badly about the government in general when he was the president, which was always kind of comical to me. But he would always kind of call out the government, and he was the president. That spoke deeply to anarchist groups because they saw him as somebody who can actually help to collapse the system. The third group was just those that felt inspired by Trump and kind of just fell into it. They're normal citizens that went to provide support to Trump on that day, and then they just kind of got swept in the crowd, as what can happen, when emotions get riled up. We can understand that. So those are the three groups that the FBI actually did discover. And I wanted to present that because I do believe that we need some reality. What they have found is that these groups are far more, extremist in their views, and they find that they're far more out of touch of reality because they follow conspiracies. And that's something that I personally have journeyed out of as well, because conspiracy theories is kind of the path towards darkness, in the idea that you don't know, all you are doing is just having fear of the unknown, but yet it's not something that has happened. So conspiracy theories are just based on theories, and that's kind of what motivates these groups to form. And it's really just based on fear. So the FBI director also stated, if you don't get a chance to watch the whole video, this is why I'm telling you now, that white supremacy actually has tripled in its size of organizations and power and support since his time of being appointed as director. It is, to him, the most evolving and persistent threat, and it has grown. So my videos were being done in the spirit of that. I did not know that, but I felt that, and I've seen that and observed that through documentaries and just kind of watching what was happening to my own channel. In fact, on Friday, I will be having Morgan Daimler, author of fairy books and fairy researcher extraordinaire, who will be talking about the white supremacist myth in fairy, in terms of fairy folklore, or those that present fairy folklore and tales today. So I'm really happy to join her with that in helping to discourage any of those types of neo-Nazi myths. Luminescent myth, Nymph, you are also a member of the Green Party. Yes, that's good. It's always nice to meet another. But I state this because I wanted the Republicans to know that it's not all in the hands of the Democrats. And I always feel like we're left out, the third party, because we have the choice to either go with the independent parties that don't get a chance to really be represented that well, except for Bernie Sanders, because he really was at one point. Or we have a chance to give our vote to those that we think is maybe the lesser of the two evils, in a way. So that's the only reason why I wanted to make that very clear and state that. So yeah, I really do believe that it was important to talk about that, because it just shows that I'm here, and I'm not, I'm just one voice, but I'm sure that there's others who are libertarians like me who also voted possibly for the Democrats this time around, just to give the vote to the party that they thought might get it more so, because they just wanted to really remove Trump from his position of really being a political mouthpiece in many ways. So Peachy Fruit. Oh, I'll say this, Luminescent Nymph, Hitler and Trump both had the same election motto: make Germany great again, make America great again. Right, and it can be taken and interpreted in many different ways. I will say that there are many Republicans that did not go to that extreme, but that's the thing. These extremist groups will always take things to that extreme based on how angry they are, how much their life experiences have been with others that they feel this anger towards and this hate. And so if we could just remember to have compassion and to try to see each other's perspectives, that's when we calm ourselves down in many ways, I do believe. Peachy Fruit, IMO, it doesn't matter. The insurrection at the Capitol told us what they had, no interest in peaceful discourse. Right. I mean, this is kind of me trying for just having discourse without any other partner to do that with. But I think that if we just are able to talk more and show our our thoughts with each other, we can start to understand where the fear comes from and hopefully try to help each other with the fear. It's true. And I will say, yes, we should not humor their attempts to intellectually debate or discourse. It's not sincere, and it's grounded in fear and hate. It's very true. And until people can allow themselves to have some type of spiritual revelation within themselves to let go of the fear, which is supported by spirit, which is supported by a greater sense of, spiritual connection with others, that's when we start to let go of the fear and the hate. And, that's something that, like I said, it's a personal journey. And we can do our best to be examples of it. But yeah, it's definitely a personal journey. It's a very complicated issue. Enslaved by truth, what is white? You tell me, right? It's funny. I never really liked that word either. But they themselves use that line, white power, white nationalism. Ever since, I guess, humanity has been divided by color of skin, you've had all those that would take that name when we're not white, we're peach, we're alabaster, porcelain, whatever other label you want to give us. And it's just a very overgeneralization. I agree, enslaved by truth. I do agree. But that's just something that, like I said, it comes from the reptilian part of the brain, which you can read more about the 3 parts of the brain, which is about basically the survival. It's like survival self-preservation mode. I guess they believe that the white ethnicity needs to be preserved. And that is why they're in survival mode in many ways. Peachy Fruit, I'm so happy you were not swayed by such limiting and hateful words, Kimberell. Diversity is found throughout the cosmos. It's so low frequency to believe all things be the same and stagnant. Yeah, it took me a while to, I guess, to get past, such defense of Trump on my channel. And I was really hurt by a lot of people that said that they were in support of me, and then as soon as I started talking about Trump, they lost respect, and unfortunately that is just what has happened, and I really cannot stay neutral. I think people want me to be a robot sometimes, in the idea of, like, if I'm going to present elven wisdom, that I shouldn't come through with my own perspectives. But like I said, I do believe that in some way elven wisdom is to help those in need, and to take the side of basically the ones that are of most concern. Like I said, my concern is not white power, even as a Caucasian myself. It's just not a concern. So I will not take that side, but I do have a concern about kind of that growing white nationalism in America, which has always been here since the time of slavery and the KKK. Unfortunately, this is something that has been a seed planted in America, and it's still not completely gone. Will it be gone in the future? I do have faith. I do believe that each generation being born is becoming more open-minded, and they are learning more. But we have a lot of old generations still, and the present generations that still very much believe in white supremacy. So this is a future vision. I know that humanity will be past that, but it is going to take some time. And we are experiencing, those of us who are alive right now, we are experiencing those fruits, those seeds blooming right now. And we're seeing all of that hate and this of slavery and the different white supremacy groups that have been part of this country. Unfortunately, there really hasn't been other nations that have really experienced just the horrible civil rights, I guess, the atrocities on our Black citizens. And I think we need to really understand that that's where this is coming from. This is not something that just came out of nowhere. It's just what has always been part of America's history. And we're finally just seeing, the head of it, because we have technology and they're able to group and organize through technology in a greater way. We're using the internet either in our positive ways or our negative ways. And then Rain, I just don't find all politicians, liars and betraying the people who supports them. Not sure what your comment means. At some point, Rain, you're going to have to put your faith somewhere because you yourself are not a politician. You have no control. So at some point, you're just going to have to go with the politicians that, I guess, reflect most your values and most of your thoughts. So that's where I stand. I am somebody like you where I used to not trust politicians either. And what I learned is that that doesn't help the world because I am not standing in Congress changing and making laws. So at some point we have to work together or nothing gets done. And we can't have a rebellion of people against also people that are trying to govern and, trying to create laws that keep others safe. I do believe, and I have seen and observed that most politicians went to school, learned what they did about political science in order to help maintain law and order, and to keep citizens safe. And, like I said, at some point you do have to find a way to work with politicians because this is how anarchist groups form. But anarchists, as you see, they don't really have the power or the knowledge to really put themselves in place of politics and to govern themselves or to govern others. These are not sovereign citizens, those that storm the Capitol. Well, I believe that if you met them in other contexts, they could probably be very nice individuals with just very extremist views. But the point is that anarchy is not the answer because it really just causes the discord. And at some point, we do have to cooperate because we ourselves are not in the place of power. So we just have to make sure that we somehow are able to find a way that we can coexist in a nation together. Ancient waves, modern graves, repent, Christ is King. Your comment really has no basis in anything that I stated. First of all, how does that even apply to putting somebody in place of power so much that that others would do violence over others? This is the problem with religion. And so if we really want to get into what Jesus taught, I have a very deep understanding of what Jesus taught, and certainly this type of behavior is not it. And so I think repenting has a lot to do with self-reflection and changing your ways for the better. And if you're doing it just through word of prayer, but there's actually no action happening, then that to me is not authentic. But, if you want to make that statement, that's fine. But I definitely have the right to tell you what I really feel. Nurin, I support you, though I don't fully agree. The world is full of all kinds. All kinds. Well, that's what I said. All kinds of perspectives. Yes, I do know everybody is all very different. And nobody is ever one-dimensional. But we are all multidimensional. White supremacy, shake my head. Ancient waves, I think you should really look at the FBI reports and look at the link. And if you came on with your agenda to promote or to, in some way, to dissolve the idea of white supremacy, it's not going to work. And at some point, that's what people are going to have to realize. But you are welcome to believe what you want to believe. But I choose to see reality as it really is. And it seems like you're very uninformed. So I would suggest you go to the link and watch the entire FBI report of the chief of the FBI, the director of FBI, because I don't think that you are part of the FBI, and actually get to know what's really happening in this nation. So you can really see what's going on. So there you go. Not in people who seeks power for themselves. I have faith in people, not in people who seeks power for themselves. Well, that certainly sounded like Trump reign to a lot of people, and to me. So I agree with you on that. Arc. Without the bad in the world, wouldn't the world be very dull and too populated? There could be a balance happening, but I definitely think that is more about spiritual development. I really do believe that evil exists for our spiritual development. Each of us, we have a choice whether we're going to do evil or not. And that is what proves to us where we are in our consciousness. I really do believe that. Listen always, why are you so humble and sublime, if I may ask? Oh, that's really sweet. Am I? That's very, very kind. Thank you. I just feel that nobody has a right to ever put themselves in a place of power or hierarchy than others. And I just really wanted to put that message out there. So, namaste. Peachy Fruit, at high elven wisdom, what do you think? We as elven souls are born with such physical differences. It is a testifying unity within the differences, or some other wisdom we have yet to learn. Well, I think this is something that I am still kind of remembering and awakening to. The fairy soul, the fae folk, and the nature of the fairy spirit or the elven spirit within a human body is something that I believe is really captured from our incarnations and just our life experiences that we bring into this lifetime. We are the sum total of our experiences. I really do believe what we are today. We are the sum total of our experiences, what we have learned, and we have amnesia, and we have to go through a reawakening process every lifetime. But that's the fun, right? It's like, it's a beautiful journey to remember, to slowly awaken and remember things. But we'll talk definitely more about that. But I am definitely going through that process right now and trying to help understand. And Rain, you are free to have faith in politicians. I think you're trying to say not fate, but faith in politicians. But I think people still have to keep in check people in places of power. Yes, of course. And I believe that people in power have to keep themselves in check themselves. And in many ways, the media does that, because as soon as someone says something, a politician has said something, the media broadcasts that, and then that gets the people angry, and then cancel culture happens and all of that. And so this is the give and take that we're seeing. I don't believe that the politicians have a no consequence system. I think we see that very much, consequences of their actions and what they think and what they say publicly. And then Arc, I feel that world peace is good, but there are some negatives in it. I see world peace as not without conflict, if that makes any sense. It's more of just a broader perspectives that awaken within us all, and we're able to have mature dialogue and discourse with each other about our differences. So world peace to me seems more something in that realm where it's not like everything is just perfect all the time, and you're not, you have a smile on your face all the time and you don't say anything. No, that's not being authentic. We're always going to have our differences, but the way that we deal with our differences is going to evolve. And I believe that we have no choice to that. It just seems to be the pathway that a species goes through. And so that's how I see world peace. It's not like everything is perfect. It's just that we become more wiser in how we deal with our differences. I hope that makes it a little bit more clear there. Nurin, I don't trust any agency but my self-agency. Well, Nurin, I used to be like you too. And I'll say this. Like I said, I think that when you put yourself in that position, you are actually more helpless rather than in a cooperation as a sub-creator with others. Because we, in our position as citizens, we cannot actually do anything unless we are in those positions of political change. So I would rather have cooperation with those in political change rather than be isolated from them, because I feel that then that's where I start to feel helpless. And I do feel that many anarchists get to that point where they're just angry at the system, and so it becomes just this this fight against it rather than actually trying to change it within. I don't see anarchists like actually going into political science, getting a degree, and going into Congress to make a change. Do you see what I'm saying? There is some reality that is needed here. And I'm sorry if this is kind of a harsh wake-up call to some people, but anarchists are in delusion, because that's not, they're not in a place of power or change. You can only be actually a change in this world if you yourself enter into politics. So at some point, you have to give over that. You have to see what you really are. Otherwise, you're just in a state of helplessness as a citizen. And I really have moved past that. Jimmy Gengis just saw today, family of this guy tipped off the FBI. A South Carolina man bragged in a group text that he disguised himself as an anti-fascist or anti-Tifa. And okay, well, I don't know if that's something that could actually be evidenced. I mean, this is something that the FBI has found, is that they have not found any evidence of fake Trump supporters trying to just make, I guess, the movement look bad. Watch the FBI reports by Christopher Wray, and you'll see that. So even if you have seen these kind of conspiracies or these ideas, we have to go with what's the evidence out there. That's all I'm trying to say. You have to really, have that dose of reality in many ways. I have not seen Wise Tales Arts. Have you guys watched TV commercials our parents and grandparents had to watch as children? No wonder they are so effed up. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is like, since the deep roots of segregation in America, our older generations still are very hardwired with those experiences. So it is the newer generations that are becoming more open-minded in that way. And unfortunately, there are some new generations that are seeming to, I guess, allow those white supremacy thoughts to progress because they come from that family or that environment of the neo-Nazis and those that, formulate those really tight-knit family support systems. They're basically gangs. They run like gangs where they take care of each other and they become a family. And so it's really just, it is about kind of the new generations and allowing for this transition to happen. We're seeing that. Rain, people on both sides of the political spectrum need to understand that they both want what is best for their loved ones. Absolutely agree, Rain. I agree. And that is where the idea of fear comes in, because what they have found is that many of the ultra conservative ideas are really based in fear and not fact, but rather conspiracy. And I admit this myself. I went down that road of conspiracies. You know, when you look at other people or Pizzagate or all that, but you really have to look at the reality rather than just the conspiracies. So I rely on facts now of what the FBI finds. You know, I look into what other representatives with good intentions do find in their own states. And, you know, you can find ways of finding the truth. You really can, if you really look for it. And you can always tell what's a conspiracy if it's based on something that doesn't have real actual evidence, but is really just a theory. But you're absolutely right, because both sides want what's best for their loved ones, and they will come from their perspectives of what's in self-preservation of themselves and their loved ones. So it is just about, I guess, minimizing the fear within us all so that we can come together and stop fearing each other. I love that, Peachy Fruit. We are all the same. The external features are irrelevant. We have the same heart, the same mind, the same desires for happiness. It's true. And we just go about it in different ways, don't we? Brain, people thought that Trump was their savior from corrupt politicians, but didn't see he was too. Biden is the same too. Well, that's the problem. Is that conspiracy being propagated, and through using the rhetoric of religion has really amped up people's emotions, as it always has all these ages. So that's exactly the manipulation. When religion gets involved with politics, that's when there's a problem. Biden doesn't have that same support. People are not saying that Biden is the chosen one, because Democrats usually are not as conservative with their values, I guess, or their religious thoughts. And, you know, this is a very complicated issue that we are not going to solve even right now in a few years. This is something that's going to happen over time. People are going to have their spiritual realizations on their own to see that there is nothing to fear in each other, and to learn of the true energetic interconnection to each other is going to take some time, because religion has established a system where we have this impersonal God, and we have different people, and different people want different things from that personal God, or they're on different paths, and that is slowly dissolving as people have spiritual revelations and actually see the energetic quantum field, which actually proves that we are more connected than that separation that has been instilled by religion in organized religions. So this is a very complicated issue, Rain, and you really do bring up that, and I'm glad you did, because it actually just affirms that, yes, that religious kind of zealotry is actually out there about Trump, and that's kind of what led to this. And we need to make sure in the future that political leaders, whoever they are, do not allow religion to be, I guess, connected or involved in the way that they, I guess, are able to govern a nation of many different religions and all sorts of different people. Otherwise, yes, you do, it becomes a cult. Exactly, yeah. And that's the difference, is when a political party becomes a cult or something like that, that's the issue that we had. And Naren, if you could, would you merge with a computer, as in your brain consciousness? Well, everything is becoming all one. Even your computer right now, molecules are actually just in the same quantum field as you. computers are really just tools and extensions of our own minds, and an extension of our own ability to connect to each other's mind. And so this is something that I'm just reawakening to and realizing, because I too had a fear of technology. I'll admit, I did. I was like a forest dweller that like was a first seen computer or something. And then I just kind of remember that everything is connected. So I hope that answered your question, Noreen. Yes. And Rain, I agree. The hate is fired up by politicians and their horrible discourse to each other as enemies. Yes, very much so. And that is exactly what caused so much enemies against Trump, was because of his insults and his attacks. It is no coincidence that Nancy Pelosi was actually attacked. Her computer was taken. I'm not saying her personally attacked, but I think there were threats on her life was made because Trump, in his speeches, would talk about how bad Nancy Pelosi was. So that's exactly it. That connection is there. And so the rhetoric that a politician uses will affect the people and those that follow them. So I absolutely agree. And then, Rain, does it help to believe in politicians who never keep their promises? Well, that's not yet to be seen. We haven't had Biden as president or Harris as president. So I think it's unfair to jump to conclusions. There's a lot of people saying, oh, Biden didn't do anything during his time of office. Well, he wasn't really in the power to do anything. You know, he was the vice president, and yes, but he also had to answer to the president. And so now we're seeing this whole change of his true values and priorities with the environment and COVID. So I am in a waiting period, and I patiently wait to see more of his actions rather than to jump to assumptions or conclusions about others. And that's really how I stay away from conspiracies now, because that really, like I said, is just a dark path of fear of the unknown. So yes, I do agree with you on that. James, yeah, if the universe could maybe erase or ease up on those lessons, that would be great. Yeah, you must really like school, I guess, to enjoy Earth. You know, and this is where the deep question of education comes in. It's like, you know, when is it where education of spiritual development can become fun? You know, and that's where you really get into the depth of your spirit. Because you're right, it is painful having these lessons, but they will continue to keep coming up until we really do learn from them. And then Jimmy Gingas, I have been told I have both fairy and elf DNA. Don't know what the difference is. Fairy is basically an umbrella term for all of the fae folk that have been mentioned in folklore and in legends. And elves come in many different sizes and varieties, and they are part of the fairies, but they themselves are different. I am learning that too. One theory I have is that elves are more closer to humans or humanoid form than fairies sometimes take. Fairies can come in many forms as centaurs, many different forms, spirits without even bodies and form. And elves tend to always in folklore and legends and even Tolkien stories be very kin to humans, look very, very similar, but there might be some slight differences, and fairies tend to be a little bit more ambiguous in many ways. But the idea of fairy is really to embrace all, including elves. So I'll get more into that on my channel. Nurin, I'm afraid the media won't cover Biden like they did Trump. I hope I'm wrong. Oh, you have Fox News and you have those other type of networks that will. You don't have to worry about that. But one thing I do know, just with common sense and understanding Biden and Harris, they're not as evoking as Trump is with their rhetoric. So I don't think the media will find him as exciting because he probably won't get on Twitter and tweet as much as he did that were these really outrageous ideas, against China and all these things that he said on Twitter. We won't see that with Biden. We won't see that with Harris. So no, it is going to be less exciting for them, but I believe that the media will still do their job. Yes, the universe, the beatings will continue until morale improves. Laugh out loud. Yes, it's very true. It's very true. Because how can we, if the point is to return back to our original source, how can we get back to our original source if we have forgotten our higher nature within ourselves? So those lessons exist so that we may return back to the original source, which many would call God. Their idea of what God is. And so that's why I do believe that it is about spiritual development. Because the fracture happened. The fragment of all souls happened in many ways of what the original source we came from, whether you want to call it God or prime source. And we are trying to find our way through our own individual lives and journey and with each other back. Oh, yeah. That is why I do believe it exists. That is for sure. I think I missed some. I'm so sorry. If any of you have major comments that I missed, please tell me. Yeah, I don't watch. Oh, Nurin, I don't watch the Fox News at all. You always misplaced me. I'm on the left. No, but your comment was that you said that I'm just worried that Biden won't be talked about in the media, but I'm just giving you rational thought here, whether you watch Fox or not, that I do know that that has been established, that support from the right wings, you will see that through Fox. So yes, we'll have some media outlets that are definitely going to report on Biden. Absolutely. Peachy fruit, I agree. I prefer nice, boring politics. I agree. Like I said, I'm a very kind of even keel person. I don't like a lot of drama. And maybe that's why I resonate with the elves in many ways. So I don't want the excitement in politics. So the 4 years was very hard on me, energetically, empathically. So that is why I took my green member vote to vote out Trump, because I wanted peace, more peace in many ways, to quiet down one who was at a place of power that was putting out all these outrageous conspiracies and ideas that was evoking people. So that was why. And I absolutely agree with you. And that's why I want nice, boring politics in many ways. And then James, yeah, Biden isn't exactly the kind of person to take a proverbial massive dump on Twitter. No, he's not. He's not. And he's not one to attack another nation's leader like in China or, just kind of put it out there for others. That's just not his personality. And I really wanted that. I wanted less of what Trump was doing. So yes. And some people might say that was trying to get to the truth or whatever, but the thing is, many of his claims were actually really unfounded for. So that's where the idea of conspiracies come in versus the truth. And then Jimmy Jin, just so true. Every time I turn on Fox, they only talk about Democrats. They have classic narcissistic projection. Well, they definitely support Trump, and they do give a chance for Democrats to come on, but their reporters will interrupt, and you definitely see a very strong bias towards Trump. I have seen that in their actual reporters. But same thing with CNN. CNN is very against Trump. And I have seen that with their reporters. You can't help but see an emotion that they get caught up in talking about Trump and how much they disagree with him. So you have CNN for those that are against Trump, and you have Fox for those who are in support. and that's really what you saw. Media is not supposed to be that biased. However, reporters are human, and they are not robots. So the way that they report will be fueled with some emotion. And you just have to be able to sift through that emotion and get to the news. And, just be wary of the media that starts to have too much of a reactionary or emotional response, and don't come at things more with a logic. Which is unemotional, because really the news is not supposed to be an emotional biased place. In fact, that's definitely not the news then, that's a perspective. And the news is supposed to give both sides of perspectives, really. And Naren, oh yeah, they will say he's Satan himself, of course. Well, that's the whole thing, and that's why I said that in my letter that I wrote. We should not call others Satan or Messiah, because really that's just a delusion. That's just kind of propagating this perspective that we have of the world. And we should really, the mystics and just ancient wisdom will tell you that the angel and the devil is both within us, and we have this power to show those sides of ourselves. So we should never really put all the archetype of the devil or the archetype of God on one person. But yes, that happens. Naren, you like exciting politics, so it makes sense. Well, yes, exactly. If you like excitement, then there are many people that like my husband. He likes excitement too in many ways, and found Trump quite entertaining. Even though he didn't agree with him, he found him entertaining. And at some point it becomes entertaining, but then at another point it becomes dangerous, which we saw it slowly grow in terms of extremist ideas. Okay, Oak Kirk. IMO, I don't think there should be universal punishment, but simply punishment to people who do harm towards nature, like killing animals inhumanely, mass fighting, etc., fishing. You know how I see punishment? And this just comes from personal observation of doing wrong myself. It is our own guilt. It is our own consciousness that plays out our actions of wrong. So in many ways, that's the state of hell, in which we feel this extreme guilt and regret, and we play out over and over what we have done wrong. So I don't see any outside force giving us a spank, but rather it is our own consciousness being aware of how bad we allowed ourselves to become, how low in dimension of consciousness we went. And that's not our true selves. That's not our higher noble self. And that's really what I believe. But I like your comment. Arc, fix drama, don't create it, but I guess no drama equals no truth. Yeah, I will at some point we have to resolve, otherwise the drama just keeps going and we'll never really get to the peace, and so there are moments of peace and there's moments of drama. And I guess I just got to the point where I was just so over the drama, I just had to have a moment of peace for myself. So if you are somebody that feels, a little bit run down lately, or depressed, stressed, after all of the events that have occurred, take the time away from, the news, social media, go into nature if you can. We've had a blizzard. But, enjoy this time alone and allow yourself to get back to kind of the core of yourself. That is what I have found that really helps. And just kind of release yourself from the drama, because nobody else will. You have to do it yourself, and you find ways to find that peace and that tranquility, because you cannot rely on the world to give you the peace and tranquility. You have to make your own peace. You have to be that change that you wish to see. I really, really remembered this. Arc. So the news is to be like a jury? No, we are to be a jury in many ways. The news is more the presenters of truth, of showing what has happened. That's basically that's what the role of the media is. It should be. And many times it protects citizens too from tyrants and people of power. But if the media comes from their own bias and own slant, that's when the citizens can start to lose trust in the media itself, which that's exactly what we saw. So we are basically the witnesses, the jury, and the media is just kind of the lawyers in many ways presenting. Rain, I don't think that Biden is much different than Trump in his policies. He's just not as vocal and annoying than Trump. Oh no, he's very different in his policies. If you go to his site, he's very different. Like I said, I think he had to be quiet during the time when he was with Obama, but there's a lot of differences during this time. And I don't know if it's a personal growth thing. He's getting older, but his policies are definitely different than Trump. He already lifted up the immigration ban, rejoined with Paris to join with nations and not allow America to be an isolationist nation on their own, doing their own thing. So his policies are extremely different because he wants to kind of unite with the world, unite everybody in that way, whereas Trump is not wanting to do that, actually is afraid of that. So the policies are very different in that way, and I think that they really represent the two type of perspectives that we have, the conservative versus the progressive in that way. Jimmy Jingus, feel free to call me Jimmy. Yes, Fox and CNN both bring on dummy debaters that will confirm their channel's views. Definitely bias. I've seen that. CNN and Fox, yes, they definitely. Well, I think what they do is they try to bring in interviewers that support. I mean, I do this too. I have people I interview on my channel to support certain perspectives or views that I believe in. So I think that's exactly what the news is doing. But we have to be wary of that. Like mine is a channel of perspectives versus they're supposed to give both perspectives. And yeah, so that's the problem. Noreen, you're in that space. You want exciting politics, so you like my husband. Mm-hmm. Yes, you two would get along in that. Yeah, I really disagree, Rain, saying that Biden and Trump are similar in policies. They're very different. And I think the difference is what was so scary to people in seeing those policies, because it is going to be a big change to America in many ways. Already, the idea of transitioning to greener energy is really to lessen the workforce of the oil and the coal industry, and in turn, start up completely new jobs and a whole environmental corp in America. That is a huge change, and many people were really afraid of losing their jobs. And so there is a presentation, though, and you can watch another video of mine where I have an environmentalist actually come on and tell me that it is actually shown that there's going to be more jobs available with greener energy versus what type of energy we have been using. So just in that alone is a huge change to America. Just the green energy transition alone is really big. You know, ending the pipeline and stopping that, a lot of people did lose their jobs, and I heard, and I understand, but there is going to be opportunity for them to find other types of work. And so that change is really a big difference. Let's see. Rain. Well, I think he has a long way to go, but I'm willing to give Biden a chance. You know, that's exactly where I am, Rain. Like, I think that it is a long road. I do not think that Biden has all the answers, but I am, as a Green Party member, very interested in the environmental changes that, he's putting forth. That's really very near and dear to my heart. But I am giving him a chance. You know, that's all we can do. That's all we can do is give people chances and give them the benefit of the doubt the same way that we would want others to give us the benefit of the doubt as well and give us a chance. And then we go with evidence. You know, if we start seeing things, that's when we start speaking. So that's where I'm at. So I'm with you on that, Rain, for sure. I know we have our differences, but at least we can come together on that, right? James, on politics, when you do something right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. That's an interesting comment. Well, are you saying because the nature of the media is to kind of exasperate those actions that are done wrong just because it's entertaining for the public? I would say that is generally the case for life. Those that do good, it's more of a quiet thing. Those that do bad, they are loudly, publicly displayed in many ways. And so I think that that's just the nature of life. And there might, because there's some humility there in the idea that when you do the right thing or moral thing, you're not supposed to get kind of, I guess, the ego involved. And so there isn't this outside kind of, I guess, representation of all the good that you've done. It's more of a quiet understanding or inner knowing that's more important, I guess. And I think that the media knows that in some way. And I think it's just more entertaining for people. People just like bad. It's just more entertaining. They like seeing the darkness of others rather than the light. But the light is, I think, it is put forward in the media to remind us sometimes of the goodness. And that's what I do enjoy about the media. And I would never want to dismantle the media because I think that it's a very important tool to keep us in touch with each other and what's going on. But at some point, we have to be able to discern between the biasness and the truth. Yeah. Yes, Jimmy, one of the first things Biden did was cancel a Keystone pipeline. Yeah, extremely different from Trump, because Trump actually put forward the pipeline and more connection with Saudi Arabia for the oil. So that's extremely different. And yes, we have severed those connections now in America in many ways to Saudi Arabia. So big changes. I mean, hopefully we could stay still allies and not cause more drama, but at the same time, enough is enough. We need to start to really think about our world, because this climate change, whether we experience extremely freezing weathers, like I can't believe that Texas experienced the blizzard, same as I have. I mean, some really extreme weather is happening, and we're a little too late in many ways, but there is a way for nature to heal itself quickly if we respond in a way that really helps to ensure the survival of the future. of the human species, at least, nature will be fine. But it's humans that won't. Checks your watch. Sorry. Yes, this is a long one. Well, hopefully people can just watch the very first part and just get my statement. But with you, I'm just chatting now. Yes. As far as they're closer than what people might see. Oh, Rain, you said, and Narin, they do have their differences. It's just like you said, on a larger scale, they're closer than what people might see. It's my perception. Yeah, I mean, I think time will tell how different Biden and Trump are. Only time will tell. Yeah. And that's really when it comes to, James, when it comes to foreign policy and neoliberalism, well, that was not found in the FBI investigations. They're finding that there's actually less groups in that way. And you can't blame Antifa or Black Lives Matters because those are humanitarian movements to stop the systematic racism that still happens in the police system and the way that Blacks are treated in this country due to America's history. But so that term is something that I think has just kind of been made up because liberalism is really about equality for all. So if you're a new liberal and you're about equality for all, you tend to not be an extremist in that way. But I do think that there were some extreme groups that were anarchists that actually got involved with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And we actually do know that because Black Lives Matter's representatives actually talked about how they did not condone, bombing stores or destroying private property. They were not about that. So, as I said in my my letter in the beginning, if you watch the video on the FBI, they do talk about how the three groups were discovered in terms of that. So they have found in their investigation that, and you'll see that too, that it's anarchists, extreme anarchists that actually get involved with both the liberal movements and both the right-wing movements to kind of tear down society. So that's the whole thing. But if you think that Biden's foreign policy is horrific, I mean, that's then your perspectives on the world in terms of immigration ban and things like that. And whatever's horrifying to you, I guess it shows what you're fearful of. I don't have those same fears. And I think that that's just kind of where I am with that, I guess. Arc, that's weird. This is a very good video. I'm glad you're... Oh, I just lost it. You guys are talking there. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Arc. Well, I'm happy that we were able to chat and, show each other our different perspectives and where we come from. And what, what I think, I guess, I just needed to clear the air on my channel before I can really move forwards into kind of the direction I really want to go, which is not politics. Not in this way. Like I said, I don't want to comment all the time on world issues, but things that are really important to me, I will. Peachy Fruit, I feel like Tolkien was a liberal. Yes, he actually had a statement saying that he would be actually more a libertarian or closer to anarchy, actually, because I think what he saw in terms of of war, he himself knew that there was a better system and kind of lost some trust in the leaders in that way. But yeah, I definitely agree. Tolkien, he definitely was in many ways. And then Jimmy, trees were frozen here in Austin, Texas for a week. Fortunately, power didn't go out for me. That's what I heard. Yeah, we actually had some problems here in Chicago. And that's the thing about Texas. They weren't prepared for all that snow. This is the climate change. It's not just global warming. It is climate change, because different areas are going to experience different things, and we're going to experience the extreme weather. We just have to hold on and work together. And as I said, I believe that by putting our minds together, through the Paris Agreement and all the nations kind of coming together, putting down their weapons and fighting each other, and finally looking up towards the skies and putting our heads together to figure out a way to combat this environmental impact, which is causing the consequence of the weather, climate change that we're seeing. This is really our focus now. It's just like the movie Arrival. If you ever saw it with Amy Adams and the aliens, I believe that this climate change is exactly that. It is the puzzle to put the pieces of all nations together and to figure out. And in many ways, it will be a gift. It will be our gift when we put our heads together and transition to greener energy. That will bring a better future for all of us in many ways. So yes, the movie Arrival is definitely reminding me of what's happening right now with the climate change and how the nation leaders are coming together to combat climate change. Many people might see the writing on the wall, like, oh, that's globalization and that's control. All these leaders want to start controlling everybody. No, it's to me, it's more that it is an opportunity for nations to finally come together by looking at what we can do to combat the concerning environmental changes. And I think with that, I should probably end, because I think that is the most important thing to focus on. And really, I think that nature is key in many ways. Nature will be our spiritual enlightener in many ways, to remember who we are. And it will also be a way for us to find ourselves working together and collaborating on Earth. And that's exactly what I do believe. And I think that we're just going to see that happen more and more. And I have a video, actually, I found. It's in the description, and it's all about the nation's leaders talking about green energy and how they are going to each kind of combat it. So if you're interested in learning and increasing your knowledge and your awareness, it is in the description for you to see. And so with that, I think I should end this. What is it, 10:07? Oh my gosh, it's my longest video ever. One of them. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Join me on Friday, where I will have Morgan Daimler to talk more about fairy folklore and the myths. And I will hopefully see you all on the next video. Definitely, if you wandered on because of this title of Trump, know that I am not normally a political channel, but I like to focus on things that are going to help us, bring us together, look at things from a perspective, a higher perspective, in which we can find our way back to one another again, and really do it through the spirit of fairy, a sense of freedom within. And so if you want to subscribe, you're welcome to, but normally I do not do political charged videos like this. And hopefully this will be my last, at least in this spirit of, I guess, cleansing or healing. And just as we reach healing together. So everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you all for joining. I will see you hopefully soon. And Namaste, and take care of everyone.